Hello and welcome. Today, we're exploring Arundel Cotter's United States Steel, a corporation with a soul. Over the next 15 minutes, we'll journey from the company's birth in 1901 through its trials, triumphs, and unique commitment to people and see how a giant of industry tried to balance big business with a human touch. Think of this as a friendly fireside chat, stories, metaphors, and clear takeaways, no dry dates or technical jargon. Let's fire up the furnaces and begin. 1. Forged in Steel and Vision. A monumental merger. In 1901, J.P. Morgan brought together Carnegie Steel, Federal Steel, and National Steel to create United States Steel, the first billion-dollar corporation. Picture three mighty rivers converging into a powerhouse waterway. Morgan's vision made steel flow seamlessly across America, supplying railroads, skyscrapers, and the very framework of a modern nation. Metaphor: it was as if America built its backbone out of molten metal, strong enough to lift bridges, tall enough to support towers, and fluid enough to reach every corner of the country. 2. A soul takes shape. Beyond profits to purpose. From the start, Cotter argues U.S. Steel was more than a profit machine. Leaders like Albert H. Gary believed a corporation had a social mission. They invested in worker safety programs, model towns like Gary, Indiana, and training schools. These initiatives weren't just PR. They reflected an early belief that caring for employees and communities built stronger steel and stronger loyalty. Example: the Gary Works plant included housing, hospitals, and schools so families could thrive, not just paychecks roll in. 3. Weathering the Great Depression. Soul tested in hard times. When steel demand plunged in the 1930s, U.S. Steel faced its darkest hours. Earnings fell off a cliff, mills idled, and thousands lost work. But instead of abandoning its towns, the company continued funding relief programs, kept some plants running at reduced capacity, and worked with labor leaders. It wasn't perfect. Fears of union power loomed, but Cotter highlights how the company's social welfare ethos tempered the worst of the crisis. Metaphor: think of a ship huddled in a storm, taking on water. U.S. Steel patched leaks, providing relief, and kept the vessel afloat until the winds calmed. 4. Unity with the United Steelworkers. From conflict to collaboration. Post-Depression, labor relations defined the company's soul. The birth of the United Steelworkers Union in 1942 brought both tension and opportunity. Cotter shows how U.S. Steel learned that listening and sometimes conceding could prevent strikes and build shared prosperity. By mid-century, contract negotiations increasingly reflected mutual respect, better wages, safer working conditions, and a voice for workers. Example: on the mill floor, joint safety committees with management and union reps dramatically cut accidents, showing that cooperation forged stronger steel and stronger morale. 5. Steel and society. Beyond the mill. Sponsorships, civic pride, and philanthropy. U.S. Steel didn't hide behind factory walls. In the 1950s and 60s, it sponsored the United States Steel Hour on television, bringing arts programs to millions. It funded college scholarships, public parks, and even the Unisphere at the 1964 World's Fair, a giant steel globe reminding us of the company's global reach and global responsibility. Metaphor: picture the Unisphere, an enormous steel planet shining in New York, a symbol that steel, when guided by purpose, can connect cultures, not just rivets. 6. Innovating with integrity. Modern mills, sustainable methods. Innovation was another mark of U.S. Steel's soul. From early adoption of basic oxygen furnace technology to later investments in recycling and environmental controls, the company often led on greener steelmaking. Cotter tells how even amid competitive pressures, U.S. Steel balanced efficiency with ethics, reducing emissions, conserving water, and minimizing waste. Example: at the Wheeling Works plant, a closed-loop water system cut freshwater use by half, showing that stewardship and steel production could go hand in glove. 7. Challenges of global competition, when steel became a global game. The late 20th century brought cheaper imports, rising costs, and plant closures. Cotter doesn't sugarcoat it. U.S. Steel shuttered some hometown mills, straining the very communities it once built. Yet even then, the corporation with the soul invested in retraining programs, economic diversification funds, and community revitalization efforts, attempts to soften the impact of globalization on working families. Metaphor. It was like watching a once mighty oak face a fierce storm. Some branches fell, but deep roots and careful tending gave hope for new shoots. 8. The soul today. Legacy and lessons. Steel's human dimension. What does U.S. Steel's soul mean now? Cotter closes by reflecting on its ongoing commitments, scholarships in steel towns, partnerships with technical colleges, and philanthropic grants to civic projects. He argues that any corporation, no matter how large, can choose to integrate ethical purpose with economic goals. Lesson: profit isn't a sole purpose. It's a byproduct of creating value for people, communities, and the planet. And that brings us to the end of our 15-minute journey through United States Steel, a corporation with a soul. Let's recap the core takeaways. 1. Visionary founding, a merger that built America's backbone. 2. Social mission, early investment in workers and towns. 3. Crisis response, compassionate relief during the Depression. 4. Labor partnership, cooperation with unions forged stronger, safer mills. 5. Civic engagement, art sponsorships and public landmarks connected steel to society. 6. Ethical innovation, balancing efficiency with stewardship. 7. Global challenges, softening the impact of market shifts with community support. 8. Enduring legacy, profit plus purpose remains the hallmark of a true corporate soul. Remember, great corporations don't just build products, they build people, communities, and trust. U.S. Steel story shows that steel can be strong and at the same time have a heart. Thank you for listening, and may this tale inspire your own organization, big or small, to find and nurture its soul.